Welcome back to No Longer a Hustle. I'm your host, Cassie. And I do want to make a correction. I did say that the next episode would be the isolation of the invisible wound. And this episode, episode 6, is trauma and the brain, while healing isn't a straight line. And this is our episode that we have a guest today who is a local therapist. So, this is a very special episode that is being released today. So, I do want to make that correction. And I am getting over some brain trauma. So, I apologize for that. Um, Now, I'm going to do my regular introduction. Hello, I'm your host, Cassie. We have fought the guilt in episode 2. We confronted a lot of pain and isolation in the past few episodes. The raw update of the Thanksgiving fiasco that you also listened to today was very unique. And I think having a map on how to navigate all of this is definitely what is needed to help understand this emotional chaos. So I'm very honored to welcome our first guest to the show, and we are going to get started with our first guest. Backup of this.
hmm
Okay, so I would like to welcome you to the show. Can you please tell us your name and a little bit brief background about who you are?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on your podcast. So, my name is Marylune M, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist out of California, Nevada, and Utah. And I've been in the mental health field for going on since 2010. So, kind of going on 15 years at this point. Um, I love what I do. I work with a lot of adolescents, children, families, individual couples, a wide range of different things in the mental health field. So I've been a therapist for a while now.
Okay, awesome. Welcome to the
Mhm.
show. I would like to start off with asking you a couple questions about
Mhm.
trauma-informed care. Okay,
Mhm.
so I want to do some validating of my TBI that I've had
Uh-huh. Mhm.
and caregiver reality.
Mhm.
So, my first question is, my audience and I have spent decades in a state of high alert.
Mhm.
Clinically, why does a nervous system that's been exposed to a chronic high stakes
Mhm.
crisis, like years of special needs caregiving, fight the stillness? Why does the quiet feel like a
Mhm.
terrifying void?
That's a good question. And when a lot of my clients kind of struggle with that, right? That I work with in finding the stillness, in finding the rest, in recognizing is it a trauma response or how trauma has impacted our lives, right? It goes back to honestly childhood. I know many times people don't want to hear it, but really it's like childhood, your experiences growing up with your loved ones, right? What did you see? The attachments, the connections you formed early on, um, and if you can recall that, right, like for yourself, even, it's like um, a lot of the times, what, like, from my personal experience, I've witnessed my parents always going to work, always being busy, always gone, not being able to maybe rest or relax, right? It was always go, go, go from an early young age that I can recall. And guess what? The traits passed down to me, right? You know what I mean? And how I recognize it for myself or how it shows up for me is that like it's hard for me to sit still. It is hard for me to relax, but I try to be intentional with it now, right, as an adult, because I know that's also not sustainable over time, So it's like you have to find ways to prioritize your well-being and your health, and also kind of, I know you're talking about trauma-informed care, but it's really knowing that everybody's individual, experiences are different, and really kind of reflecting and looking at in your life, like, where does it stem from in your childhood and as an adult, and wanting something different for yourself.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. I was talking
Hmm.
to someone a couple weeks ago, and
Hmm.
we were talking about what are our hobbies. Now, we're Generation
Hmm.
Xers, and
Hmm.
millennials have hobbies, but we don't
Hmm.
have hobbies. And I think you
Hmm.
touched on it because we saw our parents just work, work, work. They never sat still. They just worked, work, work. That's what you do. You
Hmm.
just work, 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 and then you retire and you know that's when you rest, but you never really
Hmm.
have any hobbies.
Hmm.
And I think that goes along with it because a hobby is quiet and stillness,
Yep.
and that's something that we were never taught.
Absolutely. And for me, I know you follow me on my Instagram, I Love Therapy 661 page. I'm all about hobbies. I'm all about self-care. I'm all about, finding things that bring you joy in your life. I get that, like, yes, I know your podcast is like the no longer a hustle, right? Like that hustle mentality, right? Like kind of slowing down, and really hobbies and doing things that you enjoy and love every day makes you slow down, makes you appreciate things, makes you get out of that hustle mentality of having to do grind so hard or work so hard, because at the end of the day, if like we're talking about health and how it's impacted, if you don't have your health and you don't have your mind and you don't have things or out things to look forward to in life, it can really slow you down or it can impact you in different ways.
Mm,
So hobbies are so key and important to have.
mhm. Definitely, definitely. Um, just one more follow-up question for the hobbies, and I know
Yeah.
for me and probably some of my listeners, what are
Mhm.
some what's one step to find a hobby?
I would say to find a hobby is think about what maybe you used to do as a child that you enjoy,
Mm,
that made you laugh, that made you kind of be carefree, that made you smile, as a kid. So hobbies can show up differently, right? But and it's individualized to me, but it's like doing the things that maybe you did as a child. So like for me speaking, like, and like I love basketball. I've always liked basketball since I was like 9 years old. So till this day, I'll shoot around. I'll play, you know what I mean? I was in competitive women's league just a few years ago, and that's kind of the hobby that I enjoy and create. So it's like look back into what you used to do so you can still live like your inner child. You can still heal from it, if things that, you forgot you used to do as a child. And also, and hobbies don't have to require like a lot of time, if that makes sense. I know a lot of times adults say, I don't have time to do the things. I don't, um, know what to do or how to create hobbies, just look back and think about what is it that you used to do or enjoy as a kid. I would start there.
that's a good point. Doesn't require a lot
Mhm.
of time. Good point. Good point.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right. Still with the validating of the TBI and the caregiver reality. Um,
Mhm.
as you know, I have mild cognitive impairment from my
Mhm.
TBI. When I
Mhm.
talk about the 7 p.m. crash or the inability to switch tasks, what
Mhm.
is actually happening to the brain's energy budget? How
Yes.
does the slow mandatory pace actually save the brain?
Mhm. I would say everyone's unique with that, right? In that sense, it's important to know your capacity and know your limits. And when you are crashing, or what are the signs of it for yourself, right? When you're crashing, there is probably some, like I would say, warning signs, right? That tells you. Do you feel like even if your heart rate, your blood pressure, your energy level, your moods, your like there's warning signs that usually people kind of go through, right? So the crash is a real thing. And also being able to like going back to even setting boundaries, right, with yourself and other people in your life. when you are needing that rest, when you are needing to crash without feeling guilty. That's the key thing because I know you're a mom. I know I'm a mom too. It's like we have that guilt of having to feel like we're doing things and overextending ourselves, but listen to your body, listen to your mind in what you're going through and what how much you can handle each day and each time, so because you're not your best self when you're not, when you're doing things for other people so much.
Ah, that guilt is
Hmm.
surreal, and that guilt is
Hmm.
terrible. I
Hmm.
know that I've crashed out within hours of waking up, and
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
like I can't crash out. I feel like I have to, meet my day's work, my workload
Hmm.
for work, my workload as a mom, my
Hmm.
my workload as a wife. It's
Hmm.
only been 2 hours since waking up.
Hmm.
Um, I know, and it's been a huge learning curve. Um,
Hmm.
one of the biggest things is like taking taking a shower. For
Yeah.
years, taking a shower has always been in the morning for me,
Yeah.
and now I have to do it at night.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I crash out taking a shower in the morning.
Hmm.
It took me a very long time to figure that out.
Hmm.
That
And have systems in place, right? Like you're mentioning the crash out and like your workload and the mental load and everything. Have systems in place that help you, like, not that requires like so much energy. So for example, if I don't want to be at the store and grocery store, I'm gonna order. Like, you know what I mean? Because I don't have the capacity or my time is limited, outsourcing, many different things. I know I have friends and people that like outsource their laundry. I don't have that load or energy to do laundry, for people. I don't outsource as I do my own laundry, but I also create a system for myself. I wash the clothes, but I won't fold it till on a Saturday. So once a week, that's the only time that I'm folding clothes and putting the clean clothes away. I'll do a load here and there, but I won't put because just that capacity of having to do that every day is draining to me, right? So have systems in place that can help you. If it's cleaning, if it's the house, if it's food, right? Meal prep some stuff where it doesn't require you to be in the kitchen all day cleaning or cooking or preparing. It might just be simple as pizza, rotisserie chicken, and some veggies or something. So making it simple for your family and yourself to take that load off.
Yes, making it simple. I like that.
Mhm.
I like that, even though I forget it all the time. I always tell the kids, keep it
Yeah,
simple.
yeah, I know. I was like, because at the end of the day, make it simple, but also the goal is just to make sure everyone eats, regardless of how they eat, whatever they eat, right? It's like simple as just making sure that, you have things readily available as much as you can, right? But also taking the load off that you have to fix a fancy meal every night. You don't, you know? You really don't.
Okay, good point. Good point.
Hmm.
Let's move on to our next area, which is the core conflict, the invalidation and the veto echo. For the first question, the veto echo, I call
Hmm.
the constant self doubt the veto echo,
Hmm.
born
Hmm.
from the past invalidation.
Hmm.
When a patient, particularly a caregiver, is chronically invalidated by a
Hmm.
partner or,
Hmm.
let's say, the medical system,
Hmm.
insurance, how
Hmm.
does that create a shame loop that makes them hesitant to trust their own pain signals? So,
Hmm.
I guess it goes back to, for me, I've had several instances.
Hmm.
I've been to the doctor and I've been dismissed because of my pain that
Hmm.
I've had.
Hmm.
Um, I've been told that a lot of things going on with me is because of my weight and I just need to lose
Hmm.
weight.
Hmm.
And that's always been my belief. Oh,
Hmm.
this hurts because of my weight. Oh, this
Hmm.
hurts because of my weight. So I dismiss a lot of health things that have been going on for years because of that.
Yeah,
How do I
I
get out of
feel
that?
Honestly, it's really hard, right? Because the healthcare system is not the greatest, especially in Nevada. We're both in Nevada. It really sucks. I'm not gonna lie. You know what I mean? And when you're talking about your pain being dismissed, how your symptoms being dismissed, or how it overlooks, or certain testings that they don't want to kind of give you, right? I always tell my clients to always advocate, always speak up, always, there's protocols that, doctors, therapists have to follow, you know what I mean? Anyway, so continue to advocate and speak up because you know your body and what your needs are and like what you're going through. And whether it's keeping a log, for myself, I have health stuff, too, that I go through and I navigate. I keep a running log in my notes on my phone of
Mm.
pictures, of dates, of times, of things. And then so when I go to the doctor, I have my documentation or proof of like what's happening and going on in my life. This is what I notice, and what I'm tracking. So keep a running like list of symptoms that's happening for you. And so then you can really, you have like your proof of like what's happening and what you're going through, and maybe certain testings that maybe they need to put, or you might need to be referred somewhere, or and things like that. And if you don't feel heard, right, by your doctor or therapist, even, there's a process to follow. You can file a grievance. You can ask for to speak with their supervisor. You can, a change in providers. So don't
Mhm.
feel like you have to be stuck with that primary person or therapist, or feeling like you just are being dismissed or not heard. Like continue to seek other people and other providers in order until you feel heard.
Now, how do you get out of that loop with your partner or even with your children or maybe
Mhm.
your parents?
And so, in a sense of like explaining what you're going through with your partners or family or, family members, I would
With,
say, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, with them invalidating you.
Um, I think it goes back to like maybe kind of educating them on it, right? Like, hey, this is what I'm really going through. This is what's happening. And you don't wish it upon anybody to go through your pain or carry your journey, right? But it maybe goes back to like how well are people communicating to their loved ones? Like, hey, I'm really like not feeling great. This is what's happening, right? Sometimes we think our partners know what's going on, but really, did we communicate really kind of our needs with them? Like, hey, I
Mhm.
really don't have the capacity right now. I'm at like a 20% right now versus out of 100, like your battery level, you know what I mean? To do
Mhm.
things or to handle things around the house or to just, like you said, to take a shower or to get by. So it goes
Mhm.
back to just honestly communicating. And they may invalidate, they may not be supportive, but then what does that look like? How can they become supportive, right? And so you feel heard and seen in your
Mhm.
relationship too with illnesses that are happening.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you talked about systematic
Mm-hmm.
approaches.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about systematic failures, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had an insurance. I ha oh, something happened.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, I can edit this out without an issue.
Oh
I've lost my screens. Okay,
no. Uh-huh.
I'm back again.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I recently faced a systematic failure, an
Mm-hmm.
insurance denial for my son Eduardo's care.
Mm-hmm.
It's still going on. It requires hours of phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but my condition I'm in right now, it's very hard to manage this.
Mm-hmm.
And it is. And it makes me feel so guilty because
Mm-hmm.
the therapist, Eduardo right
Mm-hmm.
now is in a residential care facility. And the
Mm-hmm.
therapist will text me and be like, have you done this yet?
Mm-hmm.
Have you talked to somebody about switching over the plan yet? Have you
Insurances.
found
Mm-hmm.
this information out yet? And I'm just like, I'm trying to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing it. I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
I don't, it makes me look like I'm not doing it. when I'm
Yeah.
trying to get it done. It makes me
Mhm.
look like I'm lazy, but
Mhm.
my brain is shutting down when I get the time to do
Mhm.
it because I'm
Mhm.
taking, like at the end of the day at 3 o'clock
Mhm.
doing it.
Mhm.
Or I try to do it first thing in the morning and I don't get
Mhm.
through.
Mhm.
Um, so it makes me look bad, but I
Yeah.
am trying to do it. So how do how do I how does anybody in the same situation
Mhm.
um stop being guilty? How do we stop being guilty when
Yeah.
the system is the problem?
I would speak up with the therapist and say, like, is there possibly like a social worker or case manager that can help with assisting this, task? Like I'm going into issues with the phone, like, right? They're not picking up, they're not communicating, I'm not hearing anything back, like, from the insurances and things like that. See if there's like a person that does like case management that can help with this process, or is there like I know I'm in a residential place, at work, and there's called this utilization review person that calls insurances all the time. They may know who to call, right? And resources and reach out to. So,
Mhm.
and letting them know the barriers that you're having, right? So it might be that you express that to that therapist, right? Like, is there a case manager or utilization person that can help with assisting this, right? Or process, to make the changes. Because sometimes like the insurances don't pick up the phone, or it's you're playing phone tag. I totally get it and understand that, because that does happen a lot for people. Um, and honestly, you just can't feel guilty. I mean, just all you can do is really just try your best each day.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
definitely, definitely. That's what I've been doing.
Hmm.
Okay. The next area for the questions has to do with
Hmm.
actionable healing and permission.
Hmm.
So this question is fighting that guilt.
Hmm.
So we've discussed the phrase, the old me would say
Hmm.
yes, and the
Hmm.
new me can't physically go. So,
Hmm.
for instance, I'll give you an example. My son, who I sometimes drive to and from work,
Hmm.
and he had said he had a trunk or treat or something like that, or fall festival at his
Hmm.
school, and he wanted me to pick him up after work. And it was a little bit later. It was almost 7 p.m. And
Hmm.
I said yes, but then I said, oh, no, wait, I can't. And
Hmm.
so he was really angry at me. And he
Hmm.
came home. He's like, why would you do that? Why would you say yes? And then why would you say no?
Hmm.
And at the time, I didn't communicate anything because he was mad. He
Hmm.
just basically chewed my butt out about it. And then he went
Hmm.
upstairs to his room,
Hmm.
like adult children do. And
Hmm.
then I sent him a text message the following or later that night or maybe in the morning. And I explained to him that, you know, it's because the old me would say yes in a heartbeat,
Yeah.
but the new me can't physically do the same things I used
Hmm.
to. And I have to get used to the fact I just can't do it.
Yep.
Um, so my question for you is, what is the simplest, lowest effect clinical tool a caregiver um, with chronic illness like mine to make their physical need for rest feel stronger than their emotional programming to say yes? So I want to get to the point to where I can say no
Hmm.
without saying yes. And I've caught myself saying yes several times last
Hmm.
week with it being
Hmm.
Halloween to my kids
Hmm.
and then turning
Hmm.
around and saying no and then
Hmm.
feeling like an ass about it
Hmm.
and then trying to explain why.
That's a tough one because you tend to struggle with people pleasing tendencies,
Hmm.
you know,
Yep.
and people pleasing, as mothers, I think that's kind of hard, right? When it comes to our kids. And in a sense of, you have to honestly just prioritize yourself, right? It goes back to even for me, as a mom, like if I knew I was planning something or doing something or, something comes up, sometimes, some kids need transitions and reminders and, hey, we're going to do this or go out. Sometimes I don't even do that no more, right? Just because the expectation or then it falls on like, you're going to have to go, right? You know what I
Right.
mean? And do these things, or because you already kind of told them about it and now they're excited, right? And all the above. But I don't even do that no more because with my even chronic illness, right? I can be fatigued at any given time, And so I listen to my body, I listen to my mind, how I'm feeling, right? So I don't even plan ahead, even when it comes to certain things with going out. Like I don't plan things ahead because I don't know how I'm going to feel that day. I might need
Mm-hmm.
to, like you said, crash out. I might need to rest. I might need to just be still or don't have the capacity or energy to do anything, at times. So for one, I don't feel guilty. Like if I don't want to do something, I'm not going to do it. If I disappoint my kids, oh well. Like at the end of the day, it's like, it's more back just communicating like, hey, change of mind. I don't feel like doing that no more. Like, and that's okay. you know are they going to be pissed off? Yeah, they might, you know what I mean? But that's why for me it's like I won't tell them like, oh yeah, we have an event we're going to go to, or get them excited or anything like that no more, because I don't know how my body's going to feel. I don't know how I'm going to feel next week. Like how you said last week, you felt great, you're fine, you were thinking and planning ahead. But that's why I don't even share that sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense, like if you
Yeah,
could.
it does. It's a very good valid point, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like appointments. I know that I have
Mm-hmm.
canceled many appointments for myself, but I don't cancel
Mm-hmm.
appointments for the kids. When I have appointments for the
Yep.
kids, I take it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny
Mm-hmm.
because yesterday, with it being Halloween, there were
Mm-hmm.
two appointments for the kids, and my daughter's like, "How come you didn't cancel any of these appointments?"
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
my body was prepared to take you to these appointments.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And yeah.
for myself,
Mm-hmm.
because I make them at the end of the workday, my
Mm-hmm.
body's not ready for that, and so I
Mm-hmm.
end up canceling them. But I
Mm-hmm.
definitely see that. So it's all about how do I get to the point where
Yeah.
I don't really care what they say. Let them be mad because they're
Yeah.
still going
Yeah.
to
Because
love me
honestly, they're
anyways.
gonna they yep. Yep. They're gonna love you anyways, and they may not understand it now, right? And maybe how you're feeling or going through, but continue to share, right, your journey and process with them. Like,
Mm,
with how you're, like you say, you crash out, your health issues that come up, you know what I mean? There's, like my daughter used to say, like, why do you always work so much? Okay, if I don't work, we're gonna be homeless. You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
And teaching them that, right? And that, like, hey, we have to, like, work is important, but also rest is important, or finding that balance too. But for when events or certain things, I don't know how I'm going to feel like next week. Like, I have things that are coming up, right? I'm like, I want to be excited for it, but that day of, I might cancel. I might not show up. I might be like, it sounds great now, but I don't know. So even when people invite me things or birthdays, I kind of just like, I always say tentative, like I don't know. Like until I do know, I'll let you know. Like the day of, it's like, oh, I'm gonna go, or I change
Mm,
my mind. So it's like I listen to what my needs are and plan around that, if that makes sense.
that makes sense. And
Hmm.
that's a great segue into the final question.
Hmm.
Um, the final question is, what is the single most important message you can give a mother who feels like an alien or like she's failing her children?
Hmm.
What
Oh,
permission? Oh, sorry.
yeah. No, I said, oh, that's a tough one, right? Because it's like I work with a lot of moms, and like there's always gonna be some level of guilt of I'm not providing enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm not like all the above, right? I'm not this, I'm not that. Like, but you also have to, reflect and think about like, were you able just to even get up, for the day? Were you able to, like, like you said, take him to school? Like sometimes we have to lean on just like the littlest things, the gratitude that comes up from being able to do what you can each day,
Wow.
for them, you know. I think that's what's important, and also just really honestly prioritizing yourself as a mom, because you're not going to be your best self if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't prioritize your needs, if you don't go to your doctor's appointments, right? If you don't do, kind of taking care of your mind, body, and soul. Until you do that without feeling guilty, without kind of, and you really, I think that's the most important thing, is really prioritizing yourself so you can be the best mom for your kids, at the end of the day. Because if you don't, it's always gonna be like, you didn't do enough. It's always gonna be that negative chatter that we have in our minds, right? Of wanting to do things, but sometimes the simplest things is, did I get up? Did I, you know what I mean? Did they eat today? Did they, you know what I mean? Did they survive? Did I keep them alive? You know what I mean? All the littlest things. And so lean on
Wow.
gratitude
That
as a mom.
you are so right. You just struck a chord in me. When my kids were younger, that right
Mm-hmm.
there at the end of the day, I would look
Mm-hmm.
at them sleeping and I would say, they are
Hmm.
all alive. Good night.
Yep.
And I
Yep. Mm-hmm.
that used to be the biggest thing for me. I made it
Mm-hmm.
through this day. They made it through this day. Good night.
Yeah. Absolutely. And sometimes we forget about that, right? We always want to think about, oh, making sure we're able to provide in different ways, right? Whether it's material things or that. Those material things don't really matter at the end of the day. It's the, how did you make your child feel? Did you feel, you know what I mean? Were you there for them? Were you connecting? Were you spending quality time with one another? The kids don't remember the gifts or the extravagant things and different things like that. Is more so
Absolutely.
that, how present were you? What were the
Absolutely.
conversations like on the car ride from school, right? Did you check in about their emotional well-being?
Yeah. And I will say this because my two teens um,
Mm-hmm.
that are home because my 17-year-old is in residential right now. You know,
Mm-hmm.
my 14-year-old and my 13-year-old, they come home every day. Well, my 14-year-old I pick up from the bus stop, but they come home and
Mm-hmm.
they tell me about their day every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband
Mm-hmm.
will look at that and think that it's the most bizarrest thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
he just doesn't understand that my 13-year-old son comes to my room, gives me a hug, tells me about his day
Mm-hmm.
every single
Mm-hmm.
day. And it's all because of all those years prior when he was younger and he
Mm-hmm.
was doing all those things like eloping, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
all
Mm-hmm.
those things at school I had to pick him up for, but it was all those
Yeah.
things that I had to just muddle my way through somehow. He Now
Mm-hmm.
today he does that. He gives me a hug every day. He gives me a hug good night
Mm-hmm.
every day.
Yeah.
And my husband just looks at it like it's the weirdest thing in the world.
But to me, that's a strength. That shows like your attachment connection with your child and children, and being able to have that open dialogue and conversation to check in about their day, um, because he feels safe with telling him, about your day, telling you about your day, his day.
Yeah. Yep. And he asks me about my day.
Hmm. That's
He says,
important to
"Mom,
have,
how?"
that type of relationship.
Yeah. So when I tell him we're not doing anything, I guess I shouldn't feel
Hmm.
that guilty. Nope, we're
No.
not going to
Hmm.
do anything.
Yeah. And doing nothing don't mean doing nothing sometimes. It can be like, hey, we know what, we're going to relax and do movie night at home. We're going
Mhm.
to, you know what I mean? Maybe we can do some coloring sheets at dinner time, right? For yourself after we eat. Maybe it's going to be like, we're just going to play a board game at home. Like, it doesn't mean doing nothing. Like, find things to do at home that you can tolerate and do, right? That
Right.
doesn't require so much energy or, draining, like really honestly, things that don't require so much energy. You just sitting there. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you giving us your time today. It has
Yeah.
been very insightful. I know that I have learned a lot, and I know that
Mhm.
the guest, my audience, I hope I
Yeah.
can edit that out.
Uh-huh.
I think I'm going to do a retake of what of my ending here, because that was just not what I wanted to do.
No, you're fine. Keep it. You want to be yourself at the end of the day. I think it's important, like to leave it there. You don't got to edit it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, it don't got to be perfect. Just be yourself.
Thank you so much, Marilyn, for giving us the map we desperately needed. Your insights truly validate the no longer a hustle mandate, and it was truly a pleasure having her on the show. Thank you to my co navigators for listening. We will be back next week to continue our journey with episode 8. Sorry, correction, episode 7. And episode 7 is going to be about the isolation of the invisible wound. I'm your host, Cassie, and I'll talk to you next time on No Longer a Hustle.